What is going on, fight fans? So today we are going to watch the Fight Night Round 3 IGN review. It's a look back. It's special because I don't even remember it like all of the other reviews, but also we could discern what the game is after the fact. And now if you don't know, Fight Night Round 3 is literally in the top echelon for me as one of the best boxing games ever made. Does it have its issues? In my opinion, yes. For example, the parrying system, although a cool concept, looked very arcadey for the time. But the meta allowed for the jab, for example, to be very prominent feature or very prominent tool in the game, which is true to life, right? It had very good quick combinations if you landed all your combinations, and it had very good boxing mechanics where you can move around the ring. You didn't really feel stuck. You can move and feel fluid in there. So it was 100% one of my favorite fight nights and one of my favorite boxing games of all time. Not my favorite boxing game of all time or even my favorite fight night, but you guys probably, if you watch the channel, know what my favorite fight night is, but this is second to that one. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at the review by IGN. There's an ad. Gotta take the ad out.
Do you think you have what it takes to go against the greatest fighters of all time?
By the way, this is the one being reviewed on Xbox 360. I may go back and look at the review for Fight Night Round 3 for the past generation before the 360. But this was, to everybody's opinion, even mine, this was a powerhouse in graphical fidelity. If you wanted to show off what the new consoles can do, this was the game to do it. But that's neither here nor there. Let's go ahead and continue.
Do you think you have what it takes to become the heavyweight champion of the world?
This is what the reviews were back then? They were cinematic?
You think you know, but you have no idea. This is the EA Sports Fight Night Round 3 video review.
The flashbacks. The flashbacks. Oh my gosh. Even the color scheme of how EA Sports used to look brings back, and the font that they use for the games brings back old memories.
Hi, this is John Miller, Associate Editor of IGN Xbox 360, and today we'll be reviewing Fight Night Round 3. Now, you've already probably read and seen a ton of coverage on this game, so let's get right into what works and what doesn't work for EA's new boxing title. First, EA reworked the haymaker system from round 2, which was tremendously unbalanced and basically allowed you to throw haymaker after haymaker and never use a jab or hook. Instead, this year, they've rebalanced the jab, the hook, and the uppercut to have more power, and the haymaker to be a tremendously slow animation, but when landed, has a great reward. Now, the 3 impact punches.
And I like that change because, like I said, if you've seen any of my previous videos where I critique round 2, because I thought round 2 was a mess. I didn't really like round 2 at all. I was actually disappointed because I thought 2004 was such a prestigious game, and then go into round 2, I was like, wow, this is what they're going to do now. But they fixed that, to me, in my opinion, in round 3. Yes, it still was somewhat of a haymaker fest, but it was more of a, you had to time it, you had to get them off the rhythm and all that stuff, because it was a much slower process. Plus, there was the deadly chance of being parried, where if you threw a haymaker, depending on how hard your punches were, if you threw like a really hard haymaker, you were going to be in that parry state for a very long time, which means it's a free one. The dude could just be like, oh, it's time, and just take you out, bro. Like, it was that crazy. So there was this incredibly high risk, but with an incredibly high reward, as opposed to round 2. I think it was just high reward with very little risk, because when you pulled it back, you could walk around with it and then throw it to the body, throw it to the head, so you could. It wasn't as much of a risk as it was in this one.
Stun punch, the flash KO punch, and then the traditional haymaker all have various degrees of damage, One will actually knock you out in one blow, one will send you into a first-person minigame, and one will just take off a buttload of energy as it smashes into your nose. Now, why are the impact punches great? They really do balance out the gameplay a lot. So you're going to actually have to box this time around instead of just throw punch after punch after punch. Granted, you're still going to throw upwards of 500 punches every single fight, but you're going to have to box, you're going to have to jab, you're going to have to parry.
Upwards of 500 punches every single fight is not that crazy, though. Did he mean every single round? Which, no, that's impossible. You're throwing thousands of punches every single fight. See, it's good to see, you know, sometimes they don't know what they're saying. So it's good to see this in retrospect and marvel at the quality and the things that they used to say and how they set these things up. That intro was bananas.
You're going to have to move and you're going to have to use the style of the boxer you're using in order to really...
Is that Greg Miller? He sounds like a really subdued, like, or calmed Greg Miller, but he said his name was Jonathan Miller. Did Greg Miller change his name?
Win a fight. The second great thing about the impact punch is that truly one punch can change a fight. Basically, by landing one of these super impact punches, you can knock your opponent out at any point in any fight. This creates a lot of tension, especially when you're winning a fight and you know that your opponent is wounded, he's like a caged animal, and he's ready to unleash a super impact punch at
That is Greg Miller. That is Greg Miller.
any moment, and if you're not ready for it, the momentum can completely shift in his favor.
That's what I was talking about. You saw that? That's what I was talking about. You throw your haymaker, and they go. It's like, oh my God, no, stop. Don't. And it's like, nah, bro, you wanted to, I'm saying you wanted to, like that's the way the game was played. I actually didn't really use that many haymakers. What I did was I jab. When I thought you wasn't really paying attention, I hit you with a straight to the body or straight to the head, hooks. I threw the normal punches. That was my meta strategy. Because if I threw a jab, I'm only going to be in this state for a few, like maybe a second, not enough for you to load up a power, hook, right? So sometimes people would catch my jab and just like out of instincts, because they played other people, would start loading up. And then I could either see it and parry it or move out the way and catch them with a really powerful shot. But if I saw it and parried it, that's when I hit you with my joint. So I was always working off of the defense, always. And I was always throwing super low risk punches and just piling up on the scorecards. That's how I played the game.
60 version, EA removed the heads-up display, so there will be no stamina meter and there will be no health meter. These meters still come into play. It's the exact same system as last year. It's just that the meters are actually hidden. Why did EA do this? Well, the graphics are so good, the boxers are so detailed and beautiful, that you can actually feel how you are doing in the fight by looking at the emotions of each boxer. So you're jabbing your uppercut. Bang, you see cuts develop, you see swelling, you see and hear the opponent breathing hard when he's tired. You see on his face when you landed a big punch, actual fear. All this creates a much more visceral boxing experience, and you know just by looking at your opponent.
That's interesting that they removed the HUD completely. So we didn't know, I don't even remember that, but that's an interesting thing where they were so confident in their graphics and their emotional, like how the fighters showed their emotion, that they were like, you know what, we're gonna go full blown no HUD and let people just go off of what they see. So that makes you feel pretty immersed. I'm not gonna lie, that makes you feel pretty immersed, but it comes with the guessing work of you don't really know how hurt you are or how tired you are. But I mean, I played it and I felt fine the whole time. So I don't know. Maybe I was just used to playing it that way. But either way, that is an interesting feature or an interesting decision to remove all that stuff and make it more immersive.
When you should move in and go for the kill. Now, as always, the Fight Night franchise has been an awesome multiplayer and online game. Fight Night was meant to be played with a friend so you can talk smack at the same time you're absolutely obliterating his face with impact punches. The online mode played pretty well. There's occasional bouts of lag in there, but multiplayer, there's no better time than getting a bunch of friends, a couple beers, some 8-balls, and some hookers, and fighting.
This was during shock value online internet time frame, wasn't it, IGN? Wasn't it? It's interesting. It's like we're in a time machine.
So yes, Fight Night Round 3 is a great playing game. However, there are some problems that keep Fight Night from becoming a truly fantastic game. Case in point, the single-player career mode. Now you can still create a boxer, the options and customization are really endless, but in the end the career mode is a monotonous cycle of training, fighting, buying new trunks, training, fighting, and training, and fighting. Now the current generation is not too far off the Xbox 360 version of Fight Night Round 3. Visually, the game looks fantastic, all the boxers move and look excellent. However, the options are exactly the same, so the current generation version suffers from the same.
I love how they would go to the press conference in their full fight gear. Like, they didn't even try to make it like, hey, you know what, let's put them in it. No. Put them in full fight gear, throw them in there. It's easier. I'm guessing it's easier. I don't know. But it was funny to me that they were in their full fight gear during the press conferences and the weigh-ins and stuff. And then they would fight in the press conference. And I found that it'd be cool that they would fight. But just them being in their gear, I thought was always a hilarious, like, it felt dumb to me, but it was funny. So
monotonous career mode as the Xbox 360. Obviously, if you have an Xbox 360, that's the version you're going to want to purchase. But if you have an Xbox or PlayStation 2, then you will not be disappointed with Fight Night Round 3. Fight Night Round 3 is an excellent improvement on Fight Night Round 2. Sports fans, and especially boxing fans, are going to get a lot of enjoyment out of this game.
Wait, there's no score? They didn't give a score back then? I think there's no score, guys. Oh yeah, there was no score. There was no score. Interesting. Okay, so no score, but it looked like he liked the game a lot. Damn, that sucks that they didn't have a score back then. Oh well, it looked like he liked the game a lot. Jonathan Miller or Greg Miller, I don't know. Sound like Greg Miller to me, but it looked like he liked the score a lot, the game a lot. And from the way he was talking, it appeared to be maybe an 8 or an 8.5. Because he said it kept it from there was things that kept it from being a truly fantastic game, and really he wasn't talking about the gameplay in and of itself. He was talking about the career mode. I think that could maybe take off points from making it a 9, because a 9 is considered a prestigious game. So maybe it fell around the realm of 8 or 8.5. I agree with that score. If it was an 8 or 8.5, I think that Fight Night Round 3 was one of the best boxing games ever made, and I think that review did it some justice in terms of explaining what the game really was. Of course, over the years, the metas, they started to build themselves and people started to play the game in a specific way, but I was still very successful online just using very safe, minimal, high-risk tactics while allowing my opponents to use their high-risk tactics all they want, and me being able to see it from a mile away and react accordingly. Also, the way you could do head movement, if your head wasn't on the center line, they just was not hitting your head. They would have to use some type of an attack that would hit your head where it is. So maybe an uppercut, a right uppercut if you're leaning to the right, because the straight or the jab of the straight just wouldn't work. So there was a lot of tools in your tool belt defensively where you could really really punish people for being overly aggressive with the haymaker system. So I enjoyed the game a lot. I felt like, that was the last time I really felt that I was boxing. When it went into Fight Night Round 4, I felt there was this feeling where I was stuck. It was almost like a 2D fighter, as opposed to Fight Night Round 3. It felt more free. It felt more open, that you could move around the ring and all that stuff. So that's my 2 cents on it. Fight Night Round 3, one of my favorite fight nights of all time. And I enjoyed watching that. It was kind of like a time machine of what IGN used to talk about, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, things change, times evolve, etc. All right, guys. hopefully you enjoyed this. We're gonna try to check out. It looks like Fight Night Round 3. I think I remembered it coming out separately, but I guess it came out at the same time. So it looks like Fight Night Round 3 was reviewed in the 360 version, and they all came out at the same time. So I guess we can't talk about Fight Night Round 3, the old version, because they didn't review it. But we'll check out if there is a review. I think we're getting dangerously far away. I think this was 17 years ago, to the point where IGN probably wasn't even doing video reviews. We might hit that wall soon, but we're gonna check out Fight Night Round 2, see if they did a video review for that, and of course we'll be back. Peace out, guys.